Hi everybody, welcome to Bello's. My name is Catherine and tonight we're going to be making this card that I'm calling Silence. We'll need a few things to get started. For stamps, you'll want to use LAV536 Valko. I've used the Meadow Mushroom, the miniature stamp, which is LAV561, the Field Grass LAV197, and the Christmas Tree group, which is LAV021. Let's talk about the measurements we'll need for our cardstock. I have a piece of Multifarious Cardstock, which is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 inches. I have a piece of white cardstock, which is 4 3/8 by 6 3/8, and we'll be using this to mat our finished piece. I have a piece of colored cardstock that I have cut down to 5 by 7, and then a card base, which is 10 by 7, folded in half to make a 5 by 7 card. Now, I chose to complete my finished card today using a dark blue cardstock to coordinate with the sky, but on my sample, you can see that I have a piece of cardstock that is more of a mulberry color. And I think they both look great, so I'm excited to have two cards that are just a little bit different. Here are some other supplies that we'll be using tonight. I have gone ahead and pulled out my Lavinia sentiment stickers. I may or may not use them at the end. And then I have my Hill masks. If you don't have some Hill masks, you can certainly use a piece of copy paper that you can rip to create your own mountains and hills and grass. I also have a small circular mask that I'll be using for my moon. And I don't have the Lavinia ones, but I have lots of these in my collection, so use what you have. For inks, we'll be using the Lavinia Elements. I have the Olive Green, Sundance, Paprika, Mulberry, and Dark Denim. I'll also be using the Nocturn from Versafine Clair to stamp my images. And because I want to get a nice crisp image on my wolf, I'll be using my MISTI stamp platform. And we'll need just a few other things to get us going. So I have a variety of the Lavinia blending brushes, and I didn't choose these. I just pulled one of every color that I needed. And I didn't choose them by size for any particular reason. I just am still building my collection, and this is what I have, and I'm just trying to keep one brush for each color tone. I'll be using my black pastel pencil. I have a black fine line marker. I have a white pastel pencil, my white gel pen, a silver Signo gel pen, and my yellow Posca pen to highlight some of the items on my card. All right, I'm going to get everything set up and we'll get started. I'm going to begin tonight by masking off my mountains in the background, and I'm going to use my Mulberry ink just to come over and blend those mountains down from the top. So I'll start off my mask and just bring the color down. And you really want a light touch with this because you can come back and add more to make it darker. And I don't want to go too far down, maybe about 3/4 to an inch. right, we'll put that away and let's move to the Paprika. I think I'm going to work with this card from the mountains down, and then I'm going to come back in and do the sky with the moon. So the next color that I'm going to use is the Paprika. And once again, not using this brush for any particular reason, just because it's the brush that I've been using with my red tones. So I'm going to start off from the edge and just work my way across. Happy with how the red and the orange are blending together, so I'm going to move on to my Sundance, and I'm kind of going for a little bit of a sunset moonrise look to this piece. So, again, just starting with a light touch and blending those inks together. All right, I'm pretty happy with how that's coming out. So I'm going to move on to the olive green, and I want to bring in my grass line. So that's the, I'm not going to use the flat edge, but this is the shortest of the Lavinia stencils, and I just like to use it to make my ground. So we'll put it up, and we're going to blend from the mask down to the card. Okay. All right, the bottom portion of our card is finished. Now it's time to start working on the sky. So I'm going to put my moon mask up in the upper right corner. I think I'm going to turn this just to work on it so it's a little closer to me. Make sure everybody can see that. All right, and we'll come back in with the dark denim to create the night sky. Now, as I work near the hills, I'm just going to go lightly and build up that color gradually. ahead and place my card in my MISTI, and now I'm going to place my wolf down right where I want him. So I think just about there, so he's close to the edge but not off the side. I'll just pick it up and ink up my wolf. And just give it a nice rub. Give it a press. Get all that ink to soak in there. And with any luck, we won't have to do this again, but we might have to do it a second time, and that's okay. So that didn't quite cover all of the color behind him. I am going to come back and stamp this a second time. Hope that will do it. Again, just pressing down and giving the ink a chance to soak into that paper. All right, he's looking pretty good there. So I'm going to clean it off. Somebody asked me in a previous video how I was cleaning my stamp. So I just use water on the cleaning cloth from Bello's. It is a Shammy from Nellie's Choice. If you're looking for it, that's what it is. And it was pretty inexpensive way to clean off my stamps. So we'll put him right aside. And then for the next step, I am okay with my trees kind of coming off the edge of my card. So let's go ahead and put those right about where we want them. And I'm thinking this looks like a good spot just so I can eye it out. And I'll go ahead and just pick that up with my block. Get it nice and inked up. Since I only want to do this once, that's looking good to me. So again, we'll just hold it down, give that ink a chance to really soak into the background. And if we need to do any touch-ups, well, that's what we have a black fine liner for. Okay, pretty happy with how that came out. So just clean it off. And now we can stamp some of the other pieces. I'm going to start with, I have my miniature mushrooms. So we'll do a few of those and see how they come out. And any that don't come out perfectly or you don't like, you can always cover up with the field grass later. So I'm just going to add a few. And I'd like to do a couple of shorter ones. So what I'm going to do is just clean off the ink. First I'll ink up my stamp, and then I'm going to clean off the ink just from the bottom part where I don't want it. And just put it a little closer to the wolf. All right, and I think maybe one more down here in this corner to balance it off. Just wipe off the edge, the stamp, and the edge of the block. Make sure we don't get a mess. And I'll pop that down right there. All right, let's come back in with the field grass. This didn't stamp completely on this side, but no worries because that's what we're going to cover up with our other stamp. So I'm going to stamp the field grass in first and second generation stamps. So we'll just do a little bit all over. Some on this side. All right, and now I'm going to try to use the smaller portions of my stamp. So I'm going to ink up mostly these little pieces, but I can still use my chamois or my finger to clean it off. The chamois is a better choice because your finger might stain and get some ink on your project, and we try not to do that. So do some smaller pieces, just repeat. Some on this side. I think I'll do one more of these. I'm going to try not to overdo it because I do want to add some detail with my gel pen. And I just don't want it that overdone. All right, there we are. I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out. Now it's time to add some detail. So I'm going to come back in, make sure this is closed really well. These Versafine Clair ink pads, by the way, they are airtight, so once you close them, you're pushing all that air out of them. I do find that because I use it the most, I have ordered a re-inker for it, and I have to ink it about once a month, so it's not horrible. But when you re-ink it, you get a nicer stamped image. So I'm just going to use my yellow Posca pen to just highlight my little mushrooms. So just a little bit at the top, a little bit at the bottom, and then down on the stems. This one. And come back in and even it out just a little bit. And then we'll get this one here. All right, now I'm going to come back with my white gel pen and just add some highlighting to the tips of my grass. So I finished highlighting with my white gel pen, and sometimes I think the trick to using your gel pen is just to have a light touch, and I find that when I use mine, I do frequently have to get the ink flowing again, but I do like the delicate look of it, and so I have finished working that into my grass. Now I'm going to come back with my black pastel pencil, and I'm going to add some shading under my wolf and under my trees and maybe a little under my mushrooms too. and darken that up a little bit. All right, now I'm going to come back with my white pastel pencil and add some highlights to my wolf, just a little bit to make it look like he's under the moonlight and not so dark. The nice thing about using the pastel pencil for this is if you don't like how it comes out, if it's a little too bright, you can soften it a little bit with your fingertip and blend it out. So I'll add some to his back, a little to his chest, the tops of his paws, into his tail, maybe a little bit here. Okay. All right, I'm pretty happy with how that came out. Now I'm going to move into my moon, and I'm going to add some silver sparkle with my gel pen just around the outside edge of the moon, just a very fine line of that. This is all the sparkle I'm really going to use on this card because I'm going for more of a masculine card. Of course, when you make yours, you might choose to add some to the moon, to the stars in the sky, whatever works for you. Now I'm going to come back, so that's done. You can see that. I'm going to use my gel pen just to add lots of stars to the sky. But before I do that, I'm going to make a few bigger ones. So I'll start with a little spot of ink, and then I'm just going to draw it out to make it look like a twinkling star in the sky. So I'll do one here, do another one here, and maybe a smaller one down here. All right, and now we're just going to add lots of random stars. You could draw your favorite constellations here. Just have fun. This is the best part of making a card, I think, is adding the little details at the end. Add some down here. Again, just get that ink flowing if you need to. All right, and there we have it. Let's come back in a minute and put the final piece together. The next thing I'm going to do is add the silence sticker from my sentiment stickers to, I think I'm going to add it to my moon. If I can pick up the paper here. There we go. All right, and I'm going to add it. Well, I think that looks like a great spot for it. Okay, let's start assembling our card. So I'm going to put my panel, because the background is really dark on this card. I like the way the white cardstock brings out the color, and it's a nice contrast to the dark matting that we have selected for this piece. And that looks pretty even. You can see that. And let's go ahead and we're going to add it right to this, and then add the whole piece to our card base. looks pretty centered. Okay. And there we have it, our finished piece. Here's the sample that we started out with. I want to thank you for joining me today. And if you're not already a member of our Facebook groups, please join us at Del Bello's Designs Lounge, where you can share your projects using Lavinia Stamps or Del Bello's a la carte for other stamp lines that Del Bello's sells. Have a great week.